Another day closer to Duke basketball returning to the hardwood with a big fun game coming up against Wake Forest. Duke 6-0 in ACC play, and there continues to be more and more updates in this Duke versus Darian Mensah case. We talk about that today on Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson. Thanks so much for being here with us today on this Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. On today's show, we're going to continue to talk about Duke's 6-0 start in ACC play as the Blue Devils get set to take on Wake Forest. We'll also touch on Darian Mensah and what's going on with the Duke football program as our pal Anna Snyder from the Fayetteville Observer will stop by to give us all the latest updates and more on today's show. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Be sure to also leave us a 5-star rating and written review, particularly on the Apple Podcast platform. Algorithms love those 5-star written reviews, and I appreciate it when you guys take the time to do such things. You can watch our show on YouTube each and every day. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, share it with your friends, and be sure to follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. So without further ado, the aforementioned Anna Snyder is hanging out with us today on the show. Anna, it is great to see you once again as always. How are things going for you in your world?
Yes, thank you for having me. Things are good. You know, they've been crazy, but they've been good, keeping me busy, so cannot complain.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we talk, we'll get to the football side of things a little bit later, which has certainly kept people busy throughout the week, but a nice change of pace after Duke had the late night games in California to finally having their bye week within the basketball schedule. No midweek game for Duke, and it's been a bit of reflection time, I would say, for Jon Scheyer and the Duke men's basketball team, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was funny. I was thinking like literally a week ago, I was up until 2 a.m. watching them play against Cal. So it was nicer against Stanford because it was like 6 p.m. tip. So it was like kind of normal. But yeah, definitely. I'm sure that they've kind of enjoyed having the time off after that cross-country trip. But
yeah,
it'll be good to get back in action. So.
No kidding. And especially when you think about it's the weekend. So you would have been more comfortable with it being the much later start than here we are in the midweek, having to see Duke tip off so late and get into action and that sort of thing. So really excited to dive into it. These past 2 wins for Duke out in California notably happen to be some of their best performances that we've seen all season. Defense really stepping up. What else do you think jumped out to you about the wins for Duke last week?
Yeah, definitely with the Stanford win. I think that was maybe one of the first games that we've really seen them not get off to a slow start. You know what I mean? They never trailed in that game. They were really dominant start to finish. Cal jumped out, led them early. But I think obviously the defensive performance, but also just the overall performance that they showed against Stanford. No slow starts. I know Dame talked about that post-game. So that was good to see.
Without a doubt. I mean, that's obviously not having to work from behind makes life a whole lot easier for each of these teams. And that's certainly the case when you look at a team being able to jump out to the 6-0 start like Duke had against Stanford, a big lead at halftime, and able to build on that when you go out into the second half, winning by 30 in the ACC, similar to what we saw in games a season ago with a Duke team that ultimately went on to the Final Four, and a Duke team once again led by Cameron Boozer. We're starting to run out of things to say about Cameron Boozer, and because he's just been so good all the time.
Yeah, he's crazy. I mean, at one point in that Stanford game, he had more points than Stanford had. You know, like someone sent me something today, and it was Evan Maya, and it was just about his rankings, and he was just saying how Cameron Boozer is a mile ahead of everybody, you know, when it comes to player of the year stuff. So it's just crazy. Yeah, he, like you said, he just continues to impress, and teams will continue to try and come up with ways to stop him, and it's just he makes it very difficult.
Yeah, what more could you ask for out of a freshman to kind of continue to lead the way for Duke? Really awesome stuff from him for sure. As we continue to look at Duke, and the defensive performance was led in large part from Dame Sarr and his role on this basketball team, stopping Ibuka Okori, who was scoring like crazy against North Carolina. it's nice to see Sarr kind of get more and more comfortable into the fold.
It definitely is. Yeah. And when he came in playing over at FC Barcelona, they talked about, it was the offensive side of the ball that was taking adjustments. And while he might not be putting up like double figures every night, you really can tell, you can feel his presence on the defensive end. Like you said, with the Corey coming off, a 36-point performance, and he scored 9. So yeah, Dame is super dominant, did good against the Cal as well. So that's been good to see for sure.
All right, so Cameron Boozer, Dame Sarr. Give me another player that's caught your eye recently.
Isaiah Evans, he's been lighting it up in ACC play. He has 5-6 games straight in double figures. And what's that crazy stat? It has to be Duke is 23-0 or something when he's in double figures now.
Up to that number, 23, whatever it may be. I mean, it's
something like that. Yeah. So I mean, I feel like you just have a lot of guys that are all just Cameron Boozer, not so much because he's always, pretty consistent, but a lot of guys that are just getting hot, and it's good to see. It's fun to see. This is what Coach Scheyer said, how this is the time of the year where you can learn a lot about your team, and it seems like they're getting in the groove. So
yeah, learning a lot about the Duke team as Isaiah Evans continues to play well, knock down shots from the outside. The volume has certainly been there, and when the percentage follows suit, it opens up so much for everyone else. Offensively, though, it's been mainly Boozer and Evans that have carried a good bit of the load. And then Patrick Ngongba still steady as steady can be there on the interior. What have you thought of Big Pat as of late?
Yeah, Big Pat's been good. He's been dominant. Him and Cam in the paint, it's just so hard to stop. So it's funny to watch Pat because I feel like the Louisville game, you can tell some guys try to get in his head and fluster him. And no, he's been super dominant there for Duke.
Yeah, and stepping up on the defensive end of the floor, too. I mean, lately, Duke's been playing a lot of great guards, and there hasn't been this big dominant post player that Duke's kind of had to slow down. But it seems as though Patrick Ngongba would be ready for a challenge like that, so to speak. I think when we look at Duke, the guard position continues to be something that a lot of people want to talk about with Caleb Foster and Cayden Boozer. And there's no real answer in that dynamic. It's a lot of games where sometimes Caleb's playing way more, and then the next game it's a whole lot of Cayden Boozer. I mean, it's a good thing that you've got a couple of different options, but boy, those guys have been a little inconsistent in regards to the production that they'll have.
Yeah, I was just looking back at some stuff on KenPom, and I think it was the Stanford game. Caleb didn't score, but obviously his presence was felt in other ways. But then he had the career game that he did on the road at Louisville. So you're right. It can be a different one every night. And you can tell Coach Scheyer has been changing things. Like sometimes, Caleb usually starts, and then sometimes he's always started, every game this season. But then sometimes we'll have Cayden come off the bench for him at halftime. You know what I mean? So you can tell he's adjusting some things. Sometimes both of them are in the lineups. But I've been impressed with what I've seen from Cayden Boozer so far as well, I will say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's gotten more and more comfortable. It's obviously, I think his tempo is really impressive. When he's in the floor, he looks to push pace a good bit for this Duke team, and really want to see that continue for the Blue Devils down the stretch here. All right, so Wake Forest is up next for Duke, and then they've got the quick turnaround, another rematch with Louisville, who was without Mikael Brown Jr. We'll see if he plays again here. And then Duke's got a couple of more games before the first Duke and UNC game of the season. 4 more games until that one plays out. What do you think of this kind of next stretch coming up here for Duke?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, to see how they come off this California trip. We talked about they had this week off. It'll be interesting to see they kind of pick up where they left off. You know what I mean? They were so dominant there out west. And yeah, it starts with Wake Forest. I'm excited for that UNC game. I'm not going to lie. That'll be like my first experience of that. So that will be cool. But yeah, just we'll see if they, stay consistent and just how they rebound off that trip. I mean, I feel like they went into that trip definitely with like a few questions, about them. I think that's what Dame said post game, that they went into it and Scheyer was like, I want you to figure out who you are as a team. And I feel like they did that, so it'll be interesting to see how they come off of that.
I think also when we look at this team, there have been a 10-day break before, and then the 11-day break from Texas Tech to the Georgia Tech game. And in those games that Duke's coming back off of the long breaks, it's been slower starts, right? There was the long break from December 6th until that Lipscomb game on the 16th. This has just been a week, but for whatever reason, some of these longer breaks have kind of put this Duke basketball team behind the 8 ball. They've been a little sluggish out of the gates.
Yeah, no, you're right. You make a really good point there. It definitely has. So it will be interesting to see how they come out. Like, will that still affect them? Will they just be past that by now? We'll see. So, I mean, yeah, you said it's only been a week, but
Yeah.
that will be something interesting to keep an eye out on if they can get
Yeah.
off to another good start.
It feels like it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but we'll have to wait and see how exactly that all plays out. So, all right, that's basketball. I do want to get to this big football story that's certainly looming with Darian Mensah, several updates that we've got to get to, and so much more. And we're going to do that after our timeout here on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. That's right. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th, take taxes off your plate, and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. TurboTax is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, we keep rolling. Anna Snyder from the Fayetteville Observer's hanging out with us today on the program. Got to talk about what's going on with the Duke football team and Darian Mensah as he takes over, as Duke sues the quarterback trying to enter the transfer portal. This has been wild. We got the announcement that Darian Mensah was coming back to play football for Duke in 2026. Now it looks like he's had a change of heart, wants to pursue options elsewhere. Miami is the rumored destination. What has it been like for you, Anna? Take us into your life trying to keep up with all the latest twists and turns in this whole saga.
Yeah, I mean, it's been crazy. It was just a month ago that, the rumors and everything was swirling. He was going to go to the NFL draft. And it's like, oh my goodness. And then he announces, he makes the video, and you're like, okay, we're in the clear. You know what I mean? He's going to stay. We're good. And then, I'm going into the portal. I was not expecting that. That was interesting, and everything that's come of it. I mean, I'm not surprised of what has come of it, but it's been crazy. I feel like today, at least, with the order being released with the temporary restraining order, I feel like that kind of provides a little bit of clarity from now until February 2nd. But it's been crazy, and it's really going to be crazy. I'm interested just to see how this is going to end and what it's going to mean moving forward. Not just for Duke, college athletics and college sports. So
for sure. And it feels like, talking to people, this could be, you want immediate answers, but we're dealing with the court of law here. And sometimes that process has to be drug out a little bit. All right. So Duke sues Darian Mensah, and now there's a temporary restraining order in place. From what you've understand, from what you've read, from the stories you've produced, what exactly does this mean?
Okay. So the temporary restraining order, that will be in place until February 2nd, until they have another hearing. And basically that he cannot enroll in another school. He can't play football at another school, can't do any more breaches to the contract. But it did very clearly say that it does not prevent him from entering the transfer portal. So he can still enter the transfer portal, but he just can't transfer anywhere, I guess. If he can't enroll, I'm like, how can he transfer anywhere? But yeah, like you said, it's the court system. It can take some time. And reading through the original documents, they had something in place that if there was a breach of contract, it would go through arbitration courts or arbitration. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, why they went the temporary restraining order route, just because I think that can take so much time. And they were like, if he transfers and he leaves, then he's gone. And then nothing can come of this. Duke can't get anything from it. So that's, I think, why immediate quick hold was put on it, just to prevent him from being able to transfer and then leave wherever he decides to transfer to, even though I think everyone knows where he's going to transfer to. So it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I doubt Duke was expecting this to kind of go down either. They probably thought they were in the clear too. And the last day of the portal too, it's crazy. It's tough.
I'm glad that we're in this moment here for Duke trying to make a change to college sports as we know it, and obviously it's needed for these players to be recognized as employees to make these contracts a whole lot easier. And from Duke's perspective, I'm glad that there's the restraining order in place right now. And for Darian Mensah, if you want to go into the transfer portal, cool. But it sounds like you're just going to be waiting in limbo in this portal to figure out exactly what you're going to do next. If Duke didn't do anything, they'd be walking away from a big deal here. And so I think it is the right move by Duke to sue him like this. Ultimately, maybe he does come back and play football for Duke in 2026. Maybe who moves on. Regardless, I think down the road, that's where we'll see the bigger impact of this.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the way I look at it, like a contract's a contract, you sign pen to paper, 2-year deal, and Duke, obviously I didn't get to see the whole contract, but in what's been posted online, like in the court system, Duke, they were very clear with their wording and very careful with their wording as well. So they made it very clear, like what would happen if there was a breach of contract. And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, unfortunately, we can't hit the fast forward button to get to February 2nd to see how that plays out. We'll wait and see the results of that to kind of move forward in this position. What's unfortunate for Duke is that they felt like, man, we're getting a All-American freshman running back, and Nate Shepard for his sophomore season. Cooper Barkate's going to return, top target for Darian Mensah. So many pieces were in place for them to kind of replicate their ACC championship performance.
Yeah, and it's tough. It really leaves the quarterback room in a limbo for sure. I mean, Henry Bellin also transferred. He was, besides Darian, the most experienced guy. And then they have obviously the North Alabama transfer coming in, Ari Patu. But with Dan Mahan and Terry Walker III, neither of them have taken a real college snap. So yeah, it puts the quarterback room in a limbo. It puts the whole team in a limbo, and it didn't give Duke a lot of time to be like, okay, you're going to go to the portal. We can go, find another quarterback in the portal. It didn't really give them the opportunity to do that. So
no, and they want the opportunity to do something like that. We'll see 100%. How exactly the Blue Devils are able to move forward and proceed with this situation here. A lot of guys coming into Duke on the defensive side of the ball by way of the transfer portal. Several guys are going to be able to make their jump to the NFL, hopefully, and we'll see exactly how Manny Diaz is able to get that unit back. But it feels like there was just such positive momentum in the program, winning the ACC, winning the bowl game in the fashion that they did, and now it's crazy that we've ended up in this position, Anna.
It definitely is. And if you scroll social media, if you scroll Twitter, you will see the feelings of the Duke fans, if you need a good laugh. But no, it is tough, like how quickly, things change. They just went from riding so high, like, oh, we won the ACC, we won the bowl game. We have the majority of our contributors coming back, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And then boom, bomb dropped. So,
yep. Darian Mensah makes his play, and unfortunately, we'll see how all this plays out on February 2nd. Anna, I certainly appreciate all the time that you spend with us here on Locked On Blue Devils. I want to encourage people to go and support your work and what you've got going on with the Fayetteville Observer. Tell me, how can people best do that? How can they support you?
Yes, you can read my work online at fayobserver.com. I actually wrote a feature last week on Isaiah Evans and his Fayetteville roots, which is a good read. So you can go read that there. And just my Twitter, it's Anna E. Snyder.
Awesome. I love that. And I will certainly encourage people to go do that. And thank you again for taking the time today, Anna. Great to see you here today on Locked On Blue Devils.
Yes, thank you for having me.
That's right. Our thanks again to Anna Snyder from the Fayetteville Observer for joining us on the show. I want to let you know about our Everydayer Club as well. Guys, the Everydayer Club is absolutely awesome. What it is access to our Everydayer Club Discord server where we've got a group chat going at all times. Really cool to be able to interact with all of you as these games are playing out. The Everydayer Club also gets you access to an ad-free audio version of Locked On Blue Devils, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app that's out there. It's also giving you access to our merchandise store. So many people asking about Locked On merch. You get 15% off all things merchandise by joining our Everydayer Club. $5 a month, $50 a year. A couple of awesome, amazing options for you there to be a part of our Everydayer Club here with Locked On. Thank you again for making us your first listen each and every day and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the world. In our final segment on today's show here, I want to take an opportunity to just look around some news and notes from the Duke Athletic Department on this Thursday. Duke women's basketball, talked about this briefly a little bit earlier in the week, but they now are back ranked. Duke finds themselves back in the AP poll at number 21 in women's college basketball. Winners of 10 straight now, Duke holding on to a 13-6 overall record. The Blue Devils are undefeated, 8-0 in ACC play. They do not play tonight, an off week for them like it is for Duke basketball. Duke will be back in action on Sunday, the women's team at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's having a rough go of it. Pittsburgh on the season 1-6 in ACC play, 8-12 overall record for the Panthers. Right now in women's college basketball, Louisville, the only other undefeated team in the ACC. Duke and Louisville both 8-0, and then several teams with a 6-2 record. That's the drop-off there in league standings. Duke will play Louisville on their schedule this year. They play at Louisville coming up on Thursday, February 5th. That should be a really fun contest. Good to see Kara Lawson figuring things out with the squad. I know Toby Fournier, obviously the big story in her sophomore season. The leadership of somebody like Ashlyn Jackson has been pivotal to watch this year, and I'm certainly going to be tuned in on Sunday when Duke is back in action taking on Pittsburgh. On the football side of things, there is other news and notes to recognize beyond just the Darian Mensah of it all and what's taking place there. Coming up next week, Chandler Rivers and VJ Anthony for Duke football will be playing in the Senior Bowl. It was long referred to as the Reese's Senior Bowl. Now sponsorship has changed hands. It's the Panini Senior Bowl, still in Mobile, Alabama. So Chandler Rivers and VJ Anthony will be down there throughout the course of the week. They'll have an amazing opportunity to meet with NFL teams, to prepare themselves for the draft process that's coming up. So those guys will be there in the fold. For Duke right now, including Darian Mensah, Duke has 16 outgoing transfers as the portal has officially come to a close. We talked about it ended last Friday, but there could be up to a 48-hour kind of holdover period where you're waiting for names to finally process and whatnot. And, of course, Darian Mensah's name is the biggest of them all going through the lawsuit perspective. Duke has 15 incoming transfers, and a couple of the notable names are at that wide receiver position. It's unfortunate Mensah won't be able to throw the ball to them. Maybe he will. We'll see. But from Penn, Jared Richardson is going to be a big wide receiver name to know this season. And then Charlotte transfer from the 49ers to Duke. Javen Nicholas could have a pretty big role for Duke now that Quayshawn Brown has left the football team and he joined Virginia Tech. Javen Nicholas could take several of those snaps in the slot position for Duke on the football side there. Getting closer to spring sports starting with Duke football as well. Softball off of another deep postseason run will have their first game of the season coming up on February 6th in Orlando. And then softball will be playing in a Clearwater, Florida tournament the following weekend. And then the third weekend of the season, the Duke softball team going out to play in the Mary Nutter Classic, a prestigious event before conference play opens up for so many of these things. Mary Nutter Classic being played in Cathedral City, California. Duke baseball under first-year head coach Corey Mascaro. They'll get their season started on Friday, February 13th. That'll be a 4-game series that Duke will play against Maine. We think about Maine. I know we think about Cooper Flagg and his roots there, but Duke baseball with the 4-game series to open up their season starting on February 13th against Maine. We'll have you all covered on all things Duke athletics in the future episodes of Locked On Blue Devils. Again, thank you to Anna Snyder from the Fayetteville Observer for joining us on the show. Love getting her perspective on Duke's run so far in men's basketball, ACC play, and what in the world is going on with Duke football and Darian Mensah. Again, our big update, Duke's got the TRO, the temporary restraining order against Darian Mensah. He is allowed to enter into the transfer portal. Duke is doing everything procedurally on their end to the NCAA to put him forward as a transfer portal athlete, although He cannot enroll at another institution, play football elsewhere, have contact with these schools. I mean, it is pretty solid what's happening. So it seems like we're going to be in a waiting pattern until that February 2nd hearing. Be sure to follow us for free wherever it is that you get your podcast. Subscribe to us, leave us a 5-star rating and written review. I love to give 5-star Friday shout outs to those of you that take time to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. I love all the comments that I'm seeing from folks down below. Shout out to you guys. I love that energy that we've got here in the Locked On Blue Devils community. And also think about joining our Everydayer Club. It's awesome. Just $5 a month or $50 a year. And you get to be a part of a really awesome community here in the world of Locked On Blue Devils. Follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok too. Just search Locked On Blue Devils. That's going to do it for our show here today. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.